Hi everyone, we're back in chapter 7, electricity and electrical safety. And in this section 7-4, we're going to identify electrotherapy modalities. So the use of electric currents to treat the skin is commonly referred to as electrotherapy. So I put it on the board here. Electrotherapy is the use of electrical currents to treat the skin. Now, currents used in electrical facials and scalp treatments are called modalities. So I put that up here. Modalities, and the key word is currents used in electrical facial and scalp treatments. Okay, now each modality produces a different effect on the skin. So an electrode, right here, known as probe, that's the applicator for directing the electric current from an electrotherapy device to the client's skin. So here is the probes, the electric probes of galvanic current. Here are the ones of microcurrent. And here is the one of Tesla high frequency. Okay, so they're usually made up of carbon, glass, or metal. You can see these are made up of metal. So is microcurrents is metal, and the high frequency is made up of glass. Now each modality requires two electrodes, one negative and one positive, to conduct the flow of electricity through the body. Okay, so here you can see microcurrent has two, and the galvanic machine has two as well. The only exception to this would be Tesla high frequency, which only uses one single glass electrode. Now, there is a caution. Older buildings and homes, they have the wall outlets, and the older ones, they have just the two-prong outlets. So a lot of your equipment, such as mine here on my wax heater, it has the three-prong. Okay, never tamper with the wiring of your building or your home or wall outlets or the plugs to make them fit for your equipment or your tools. Instead, adapters are available. Now, you got to check and see if it's appropriate for you to use one. So how do you do that? You consult with the manufacturer or the local hardware store about whether you can use an adapter, and if so, what type of adapter is recommended. Okay, so polarity. So polarity, that refers to the poles of electric current, either positive or negative. Okay, so the electrodes on a lot of your electrotherapy devices have one negatively charged pole and one positively charged pole. So here I have this one to show you. So the positively charged pole right here, that is anode. Okay, let me move my hand. Anode. Okay, and it is usually red, and it's marked with a plus sign or a P. Okay, now the negative is usually black, and it's marked with an N or a negative sign. Okay, now the negatively charged electrons from the cathode are going to flow towards the positively charged anode. Now, if the electrodes aren't marked, then either ask your instructor, manager, or supervisor to help you determine the positive and the negative pole. Okay, so there is a little test, though, that you can do. It's a polarity test. So what you can do is you take these two electrodes here, two electrodes, and you separate them. And what you do is you can, these are actually the conducting cords, sorry. And what you can do is you can take them and immerse them in a glass of salt water. Okay, so then what you're going to do, like on your galvanic machine, because that's where you're going to see these mostly. So then what you do, once they're in the glass of salt water, you'll turn up the machine switch, okay, the intensity up. And the more active the bubbles that accumulate at the negative pole, so the negative pole, you're going to get a lot more bubbles accumulating than you will at the positive. So this one's going to bubble a lot more. Now there's another test that you can do, and that's where you take blue litmus paper and then you place these tips on moistened blue litmus paper. And then when you turn on the machine, the paper under the positive here, the blue litmus paper will turn red, while the negative will stay blue on the litmus paper. So that's just a little test that you can do if you want. If you don't want to, check with your supervisor and have them tell you which is which. But if you're home and there isn't anybody there, that's a way you can do that. Now, modalities. Now, the main modalities that are used in the beauty and the wellness services are galvanic current, microcurrent, and Tesla high frequency. So we're going to talk about each of these. We're going to start first with the galvanic current. And I put it up here, galvanic current. It's a constant direct current, DC. Remember when we learned the electrons flow from A to B? Do you guys remember that? So the galvanic current, it's a constant direct current, like I said, having a positive and a negative pole. And it does produce a chemical change when it passes through the tissues and fluids of the body because of this reason. Okay, it's directly going into the body. Did you know galvanic current was named after Luigi Galvani? And he was an Italian physician. He was a physicist, biologist, and a philosopher. And he was born in 1737 and he died in 1798. His studies about electrical charges and how they affect the muscles of animals is what helped others to develop the galvanic current machines that we use today in our salon and spas. And what he was doing is he was dissecting a frog, and he had a scalpel inserted into the leg of the frog, and for some reason there was some current. I don't know what type of current, but anyway, it stimulated that nerve and the frog's leg kicked. And so that's where his study on the muscles of the animals, he learned about electricity in the body. Now there's two different chemical reactions that are possible with the galvanic current depending on the polarity, whether it's positive or negative. So there's the active electrode, which I'm going to show you here. So this is the active electrode here, and this is the one that the esthetician holds. So this is the active, and so is this one. This one here is another active electrode. Okay, so that one's the one that is used on the area to be treated. Now the inactive electrode, this one's what the client holds, and it's going to be the opposite pole of the active electrode. So say this one is positive, this one automatically will be negative. And if this one is negative, this one will automatically be positive. Same with this. So this is what you use on the client, this is what you use, this is what the client holds. Okay? So the effects produced by the positive poles are the exact opposite of those produced by the negative poles. Now, galvanic current is used to infuse water-soluble products into the skin, okay, into unbroken skin. And the scientific term for this is called phoresis. So what I did is I got a chart here, the effects of galvanic current, and we're going to take a look at that. The positive pole, anode, and I put it in red, is cataphoresis. Okay, and it produces an acidic reaction, closes the pores, soothes the nerves, decreases blood supply, contracts blood vessels, and it hardens and firms the tissues. Now let's look at the negative pole, which is black. Okay, it's cathode, and it's anaphoresis. and it produces the opposite. An alkali reaction, opposite of acid is alkali. This one opens the pores where this one closed the pores. Okay, this one stimulates and irritates the nerves where this one soothed them. And then this one increases blood supply where this one decreased the blood supply. And then this one here, it expands the blood vessels where this one contracted them. And then this one, it softens the tissues while this one hardens and firms the tissues. So that's a lot of information to remember, and you do need to know it for your state board exam. So what I do, this is me, I'm going to cut your study time in half. Okay? So I like to focus, of course, on positive things. I don't like to focus on the negative. So if you remember just half of this, you know the other is the opposite. So I focus on the positive, which is anode and cataphoresis. And I think, okay, positive is acidic. And I think about the skin. I think, yeah, I would like my pores closed. Yeah, I don't want them big and large and open. Okay, and I think I like my nerves to be soothed. I don't like my nerves to be all irritated, right, and stimulated, like I'm all, nervous. Okay, and then another thing I think of when I go to bed at night and it's the end of the day and I'm like, oh, the day's finally over. And you go to sleep, your blood flow, it does decrease. Okay, and I just think contracts blood vessels because it's decreased. And then I think of another positive thing. My skin, I want it to be firm and hardened. Okay, I don't want it to be all saggy. Okay, so just a way I remember it. Hopefully that'll help you. But just think, if you know this half, then of course, if you see something that says, increases blood supply, that would be the opposite. So it would be this one. So just focus on one side, and then that'll cut your study time down in half. Now, a treatment with galvanic machine. So when you're using the galvanic machine, I just put this up here. So this is a treatment here of the galvanic machine. And you can see that they've got a net and iPads. And then underneath that gauze net, there is like an ampule or a serum. And so what they do is to infuse that deeper into the skin. You'll be using your electrode, which is going to be this one that you just saw. And that's the one that you hold, and that's the active electrode. The client is actually holding this one in their hand, and this is the inactive electrode. And what you do is you wrap this with wet gauze to conduct electricity. Well, the ions from this pull towards this, so it pulls it deeper into the skin, and that's how that machine works. Now you want to think of the caution. You don't ever want to use this galvanic current on skin with broken capillaries like telangiectasia, cuperose, or pustular acne conditions, or even on a client with high blood pressure or metal implants. Okay, so now we're going to look at some terms here that are important to know. And the first one is iontophoresis. Okay, so iontophoresis is the process of infusing water-soluble products into the skin with the use of electric current, such as the use of positive and negative poles of the galvanic machine. Now, the second term we're going to learn is cataphoresis. Cataphoresis is the infusion of an acidic, remember that's red, positive, okay, acidic positive product deeper into the tissues using the galvanic machine from the positive pole to the negative pole. So that is cataphoresis. And anaphoresis, we'll take a look at that term. It uses an alkali negative product, which is in black, into the tissues from the negative pole to the positive. Now, another term that we're going to look at is desincrustation. Okay, so desincrustation, that's a form of anaphoresis. Okay, and what it does is it's the process used to soften and emulsify grease deposits, oil, and blackheads in the hair follicle. And we use this desincrustation, again, like I said, it's a form of anaphoresis, and so we use it to treat acne, milia, and comedones. Okay, you can make your own desincrustation by using baking soda and water, which is very alkaline. Okay, so now we're going to talk about microcurrent. Okay, so the microcurrent machine, that is this one here. So that's microcurrent. And this machine, guys, is a super cool machine. I had a student years ago that had a really expensive microcurrent machine, and she used it for scar recovery. And she had skin cancer on her face and on her cheek. And the doctor told her, she was a nurse, and he said, if you can get your hands on a medical grade microcurrent machine, it will really help with your scar recovery. And so she did, and it's amazing. You can't hardly even see her scars. So microcurrent, I'll put that up here for you. And it is an extremely low level of electricity that mirrors the body's natural electrical impulses. And microcurrent can also be used for iontophoresis, where firming, toning, and soothing the skin. Now, it helps with inflamed tissues like acne, but you never want to use microcurrent devices, you never want to use it on people that have metal implants and stuff like that. We'll go over those actually in just a bit. So, but the newer devices, they have a negative and a positive polarity in one probe now, instead of the two like this one actually. So this allows the client to relax rather than having to hold on to a probe during a service or treatment. Now microcurrent also, it does not, so I put that up here, it does not travel through the entire body. It only serves as a specific area. So like say you're treating an area on the face, it only goes on the face. So let's take a look at the microcurrent. It can be effective in a lot of different ways. So let's look at the things. It improves blood and lymph circulation. It produces an acidic or alkaline reaction. It opens and closes the hair follicles and the pores. It does increase muscle tone. It restores elasticity. It does reduce redness and inflammation. It minimizes the healing time for acne lesions. It improves natural protective barrier of your skin, and it increases the metabolism. Now, when you use it during anti-aging treatments, it does give their skin a softer, firmer, more hydrated appearance. And again, like I said, the student that I had years ago that had the microcurrent machine, she does treatments on her clients all the time up in Salmon, Idaho. And I can't believe the improvements. She brought me a picture, well, actually 12. She did 12 treatments on a client and showed me the difference of her skin, and amazing results. It wasn't as saggy as before. The rhytids were not as prominent. It was amazing. So that machine is super cool. So what I want to talk about on the microcurrent here is it does use the low level of electricity. It's alternating current. And what microcurrent does is it mirrors the way that your nerves from your brain travel down the motor neurons. Do you guys remember learning about the motor neurons in previous chapters in skin? We learned about motor neurons, the efferent. So anyway, it mirrors your own natural electrical stimulation down that motor neuron to a muscle. And it can cause a contraction of the muscle, not so much in the face, but the body ones, they do cause a contraction of the muscle. Now you want to remember caution with all of your electric current devices, and microcurrent should not be used on clients who have pacemakers, epilepsy, cancer, phlebitis, that's inflammation of the vein, thrombosis, or those who are pregnant. Now, it should also not be used on anyone under physician's care for any conditions that may exclude them from certain ingredients or products or from having treatments. So you want to make sure before you use any electrical therapy on any clients that you always check and make sure with all your contraindications and make sure it's okay. Now, if you're unsure whether it is appropriate to treat your clients, ask them to get a consent from their physician and then put that consent form in your files. All right, so now we're going to talk about Tesla high frequency. And this is also known, and I put it up here, Tesla high frequency, known as the violet ray. It does produce a thermal heating effect, and it has a high rate of vibration or oscillation, and we use it in scalp and facial treatments. So this is the Tesla high frequency machine, and this current does not produce a muscle contraction like the microcurrent. It doesn't do that. The effects on this are either stimulating or soothing, depending on the method of application, whether it be direct or indirect. Now, the electrodes on here, as you can see, are made up of glass. And in here you see it's kind of an orange color. Okay, so that is neon gas in that one. If it had a blue purple, then that would be an argon gas in there. Okay, now what are the benefits of Tesla high frequency? So the benefits of this is they stimulate blood circulation, they increase elimination and absorption, they increase the skin metabolism, they improve the germicidal effect, and they relieve skin congestion. Now, the germicidal effect, if you think about it, we use this mainly on people with acne. Okay, you wouldn't use this so much like on my skin, but it's great for people with acne. So what it does is it kind of has like an ozone effect, and it helps to kill bacteria. Now, as you learn more about the specific treatments, you guys will become more familiar with this term, contraindications. And that term refers to a condition that requires avoiding certain treatments, procedures, or products to prevent an undesirable side effect. For example, like Tesla high frequency current, this should not be used on clients who are pregnant, if they have epilepsy or seizure disorders, asthma, high blood pressure, sinus blockage, a pacemaker, or any metal implant. So additionally, clients should avoid contact with metal such as the chair arms or jewelry or metal bobby pins during their treatment, because a burn can happen if contact is made. So years ago, I had a student instructor I was training, and she had never seen the high frequency machine. And she started, I trained her how to use it, and she started using it, loved the machine. So what she did is she went and purchased one. And she told me, she said, yeah, my new machine came in today. I'm so excited. I'm going to go home and use this on my daughter who has acne. Well, the next day she came back to the school and she showed me a great big bruise on her leg. And I said, "What happened?" And she said, "Well, you know, my high frequency machine, I was using it. I had my daughter laying on the bed, and we have those metal bed frames that hold the mattress up." And she says, because what you do, you touch this metal with your finger, or this glass with your finger to ground it. She says, when I touched it with my finger to ground it, she said my leg was up against the metal frame on the bed. And she said it sent the current through her body to the metal, which is a conductor. And we learned about conductors in the previous sections. So just watch it, and when you're using this machine, one time there is one that looks like a comb, and it looks just like a glass comb, and you insert it in the handpiece here. And I said, yeah, they use that to stimulate hair growth. So I said, well, let me use that on you. And so she's like, okay. So she sits down in a metal chair, and just before I went to touch her, I wasn't thinking, and she flew out of that chair, and she's like, wait, I'm sitting in a metal chair. And I was like, oh my gosh, I totally didn't think about that. So that probably wouldn't have been a good thing. All right, but guys, it's not enough current to kill anyone, unless maybe they had a pacemaker. That might be, something to think about. But otherwise, these are perfectly fine. They're class 1 grade machines. They wouldn't give us some medical machine if we're not medical personnel. All right, so did you guys know that Tesla high frequency current, it was named after an engineer, electrical engineer, Nikola Tesla, and he was born in 1856 in Croatia. And then he moved to the United States in 1884, where he did the majority of his work on alternating current. Remember, alternating current, the current travels one way and back and forth. Okay, so he did most of his work on alternating current. And then Tesla died in New York City in 1943. But I find it interesting that these machines and stuff that we're using today were discovered clear back in the 1700s. So kind of amazing. All right, so that is the end of this section, guys. There is a check-in question that you do need to do, and send that to me at krista@oliverfinley.com. And it is describe the 3 electrical modalities used in the beauty and the wellness industry, or in our services. Okay, so the next thing that after you guys complete this section, then what you have to do is go to, after you watch my video, then you go to the read section, and I want you to reread this section. It's really short, and then do the chapter 7 do. And what it is modality matching. And then after you complete that, go down to the next one, chapter 7 do, and that is electrotherapy multiple choice questions. Okay, guys, so that is it. I will see you in the next section. Bye.